What's up with it, gang? The twin reunion. It's happening in this video. We're going to talk about that and more. What does the trade look like and how does it help or hinder each team? I'm your boy Jet707. I hope you guys are ready for another banger. But before I get into that, just a quick shout out to everybody who subscribed super early. And even in the last video, we essentially quadrupled our brand new channel subscriber. It did really well. And for real, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate y'all. You guys are real ones. I hope you guys keep rocking with me. These slides, they're a little time consuming, but I'm going to keep giving you guys quality. And again, the goal is to make daily content, but only you guys can make that happen. Like Smokey the Bear said, only you can prevent forest fires. You guys can make that happen by subscribing, liking, more importantly, commenting. If you guys got a trade idea or something like that, anything, you guys need me to make some content about it, put it in the comment section. I'll be sure to do it. So thank you for that. Now again, if you are pressed for time, I'll go ahead and give you the mock trade right off of the bat. This trade saves the Rockets a couple $1,000,000, but the salaries match up quite nicely. It will be the centerpiece, Ausar Thompson, the twin, coming back, Duncan Robinson and Caris LeVert, along with 3 seconds and what looks like to be good seconds, and only one first-round pick. But the year we're going to ask for is the 2030 pick, which has a generational prospect. I'm going to keep telling you guys this till you guys go look this guy up, Mohamed DeBone, because he really is that. Plus, obviously, KD will age out by that age. So I would say this could be a pretty fair deal. Obviously, they get Kevin Durant, the best player in the package. And while it sucks to give up Ausar, you got to give something up to get a player of Durant's caliber. I mean, just a couple years ago, the Rockets gave up Jalen Green, who at the time is an up-and-coming player, the 10th overall pick, which with Common Maluach, 5 second-round picks. Like, they didn't exactly give up nothing for Durant, even though it was nothing, like, ridiculous, like what the Nets paid in their package. The McCall Bridges, Chris Johnson, and what was it? Was it 4 first-round picks? Yeah, something wild like that for Durant, who barely really played with them. But, he's been very durable these last few years. And if you're Detroit, your motivation's very simple. We got to stop the double teams on our superstar Cade Cunningham. Durant will help you get that. In fact, Durant might be the greatest Robin in the history of basketball. But before we get to Robin, let's first talk about it on the Rockets end, why it's probably a good deal. Number one, it's going to give us flexibility. Caris LeVert, he's an NBA player, serviceable player. He's about making $14.8 million. It probably didn't show up, sorry, when I edited the thumbnail, it erased him. But it's right around that mid-level exemption, and it's expiring. It's a very tradable contract. Duncan Robinson, partially guaranteed for this year. $15 million next year with 0 guarantees. If you release him before January 10th of 2028, you're off the hook completely. And he's still a very, very serviceable player who fills a dying need for Houston. And then, of course, Ausar Thompson and the picks. I think this trade could be really good. And we think about it this way. The Rockets don't have anybody big as far as max contracts or nothing. Raphael Stone's done an amazing job of getting guys to take less money. And we've seen this in the past before, where the Twins have taken less money to stay together. If you guys remember the Morris twins, yeah, I'll shoot on that later in the video. I'll give you the details of that. But once upon a time, the Rockets, ironically, the Rockets had drafted Marcus Morris. They traded him to the Suns, and they both took less money to stay together. But we'll shoot on that in a little bit. Let's start off with Ausar Thompson and what he's bringing to the table. We're talking another 6'7" wing, 205 pounds, 7-foot wingspan. Although I do suspect that weight's probably wrong. I mean, for reference, Amin's listed at 200 pounds, but at the combine, Amin was 214 and Ausar was 218. Normally when they do these combines, whether it's for the NBA or NFL, these guys are going to come in lighter because they're trying to test well. They're trying to put up those numbers in the drills. So they're and years of in the weight room, they're definitely dedicated on that side. These dudes are definitely basketball psychos. They're not going to cheat you with their effort. I suspect and even just the eye test, that they're probably closer to 220 pounds. For Ausar Thompson, we're getting a dude who's averaging right around 10 points in only 26 minutes, though. It's weird. He made first team all defense playing only 26 minutes. In fact, was third in defensive player of the year. Cason Wallace also only played 26 minutes a night and made, I think, second team all defense. And we get it. Your job's a lot easier when you just got to focus on playing defense. Amen doesn't have it so easy. I hear people thinking Ausar and Amen are the same player, and it was never like that. Them growing up, Amen was always the point guard, Ausar was always a wing. I mean, we could look at their free throw percentage. Amen's made huge strides in that department. Ausar, not so much. Amen's averaging this past year 18.3 to Ausar's 9.9. It's like they're not exactly the same player. One twin's much better offensively, but Ausar is a damn dog on defense. I mean, could you imagine that? Could you imagine having two all defensive type team players on the same team? You could throw in Tari there, the triplets, not even twins. And we have Marcus Smart, who, he's always one of the league leaders in hustle stats. That would be Ime's dream. Those hustle stats would be off the charts. If we could find ourselves a shot blocking big, this could legitimately be one of the best. Maybe, no, this probably would be the best defense in all of basketball. And, that's going to give you a relatively high floor. So while it would seem like a little bit of a pivot, like, okay, they're getting rid of Durant, but I mean, we won 52 games with Durant, we won 52 without him. This would be more of a retool than a true rebuild, because I do think the Rockets have too many good young players to just, be ass afterwards. And, this could set them down the line for a future trade for, you never know when stars are going to ask out. Like, could Anthony Edwards ask out in a couple of years? Like, this has a chance to, the LaMelo trade has a chance to completely ruin their franchise. Maybe it goes good. And again, just like the Pistons getting Kevin Durant in this scenario, they got to stop the double teams. They went all in for LaMelo. Maybe it blows up in their face. But who else has been extension eligible for 2 years? And according to every report out there, he hasn't signed an extension and doesn't plan to. He's going to hold the Nuggets' feet to the fire. One Nikola Jokic. You could call him Baby Şengün, maybe Senior Şengün. Should we call Joker that? This guy's probably been the best player in the league for the last 6 years. And he has an opt-out after next year. And we got all that draft ammo. This would give us even more. Holy shit, would he look amazing in a Rockets uniform. Can you imagine the off-ball action with guys like the Twins that can cut to the basket, and Joker, who's probably the best passer in the league, even as a 7-footer? Yeah, it would be amazing. But with getting Ausar as the centerpiece, you know what he's going to do. They're freak athletes. Like, they're both, you could pull any of the NBA players. It's crazy. Like, De'Aaron Fox a couple years ago was widely considered the fastest player in the league. And he was asked who the most athletic player in the league was, and he said Amin Thompson. He said, oh, for reference, he guards me. And there was a great article by The Ringer that actually argued that Amin is possibly the best pure athlete in basketball. I mean, we haven't seen a guy with that second type of jump since Sean Marion. And it's not just that, it's the easy athleticism. It's not like, Derrick Rose and John Morant, when they were younger, they could really explode, and they were, they're like 6'1.5" barefoot. Min Thompson is like 6'7", and he's running down the court. He looks like he's got 3 rockets up his ass. He looks like the fastest dude on the court, the second and third jump. It's just easy athleticism. With that, paired with that work ethic, I suspect he's going to have a very, very long and successful career. And you get another guy like Ausar Thompson to pair with him. Is he going to be happy coming off of the bench? I suspect he would be the starter. Because, I mean, if you do this trade, you're probably moving Fred too. And I've been saying this, Durant has an opt-out after this year. If shit doesn't go well at the beginning of the year, guess what? Him and Fred are going to be moved before the deadline. And maybe the Rockets look at this as a chance to get ahead of that. And now, let's see. The other part of this deal, real quick, with just Caris LeVert, it's a guy, he's coming off a year where he averaged 7.4 points, and he's a much better player like that, like how Boban did. He had kind of a bad year, but coming off the bench, He's another break the glass type of dude. And if you had his contract because of it's expiring, I suspect it would be part of a much larger deal. But for Duncan Robinson, we're talking about a dude who hits 40% of his threes on 7 attempts for his career. This past year was at 7 attempts again, 41%. Free throw percentage was a bit down, 76%. He's a career 85% shooter. He doesn't get there a ton, so I wouldn't really put too much stock into this. But like my last video where I argued that AJ Green is a real shooter, Duncan Robinson is that. Catch and shoot, off of screens. I know Udoka doesn't really like to put that in his offense, but maybe he'll wise up and do it this year. But more than anything, Duncan Robinson has an excellent shot diet. And he doesn't turn the ball over either. That's a key thing. You want to do this whole possession maxing thing, he helps you with that. And by excellent shot diet, I do mean that. Listen to this. 7 of his 9 total field goals per game are from deep. Right? That's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy when you think about it. His gravity. He's got to be defended without the ball. He's going to keep moving off screen. He's going to make people work on that end. You're not going to be able to rest when he's on the court. In a sense, Kevin Durant, he kind of irks me a little bit that, think about it. He's paired with Şengün, and those are both guys that like to take their sweet-ass time getting to their spots. And Kevin Durant, for a dude who's that great of a shooter, I feel like he cares about his efficiency way too much. Let's put this in perspective, right? Kevin Durant was 45th in the league in 3-point attempts per game. Only 5.8 of his 17.6 shots were from 3. And I mean, you could probably even throw in that he's taken 20 field goal games because he gets another 6 free throw attempts, right? So that's at least another 3 shots. And how often is he getting fouled on 3-point shots? So he's taken 20, 21 shots a game, and less than 6 are 3s a game. And that's actually even high for him. For his career, it's 5.1. Let's put it this way. He took less 3s per game this past year than a 37-year-old Russell Westbrook. Isn't that crazy? That is wild to me. And it's just, we get it. Kevin Durant really cares about his stats. In the playoffs, we saw it. He only played 1 game, right? But in that game, he had 9 turnovers. He decided that he would rather turn the ball over than miss a shot. He admitted to it after the game. I appreciate that he did that. He said he should have put his teammates in better positions to get some offensive rebounds. Obviously, if you have 2 guys contesting the shot, you're going to leave other guys wide open. The Amin Thompson game winner against, the Miami Heat, where Kevin Durant missed that shot and Amin wide open for the putback. Yeah, you're putting your guys in good position. It's like, dude, just take the shot. If they are going to say, hey, we're not going to let Kevin Durant beat us, we're going to have 2 guys contest his shot. He's still that dude. He's still a damn great scorer. But set your guys up, especially the best rebounding team in basketball the last 2 years. Set them up with amazing offensive rebound opportunities and just let it go. But again, 9 turnovers. I just feel like sometimes he cares too much about his numbers. And I just don't love the fit with him and Şengün. You can have 1 ball stopper, as I like to call him, in the lineups, but with 2 of them, I mean, that's kind of pushing it. And with Duncan Robinson, you're going to get a dude that's only going to take good shots. Rafael Stone and his analytics department is going to love that. And, he's actually not, horrible on defense. That we've actually had stretches of him playing really good defense. Listen, you don't get on the floor for Eric Spoelstra or Bickerstaff if you're just complete ass on that end. He's not a stocks guy, but at the very least he competes. He's 6'7", 219. He's not a horrible athlete, and he's a veteran. He's a veteran on what I say is a very good contract because of the non-guarantees. Oh, and real quick, do you remember when Thompson did hit that game winner? You remember how everybody went and celebrated with him? Yeah, Durant didn't. I mean, I don't know if that was gee willikers, you saved me out of there. Durant's got some thin skin, or maybe that burner gate has some legs to it. Won't get into that today, but maybe. It wasn't a great look. Now on the Pistons side of this, why would they do this? Well, again, we've seen the mock trades from other people where they're just matching salaries and they're trying to... It was essentially the same trade, but with more first-rounders in it and Ron Holland. instead, who, ironically, he could be a good replacement for Ausar Thompson. And again, for the Pistons, how bad do you want to win? You were just the number one seed last year, and the reason you didn't get over the hump is because they could just double team Cade Cunningham. Dylan Dennis Jenkins was their leading scorer in that game 7, that pitiful game 7 where they scored 94 points. That's not going to get it done. The dude averages 9 points a game. What did he shoot in the playoffs? Like 20 something from deep and like 30 something overall. It was a step down from the regular season, but he's an undrafted second year guy. That can't happen again. It's been a point for the Pistons to be like, hey, we need other guys that create. They got Ibuka Corey in the draft. I was super high on him. I do like him better than a couple of guys that went before him. We'll see how that goes. But they traded 3 seconds to Memphis to move up to get him. And then ironically, or maybe not ironically, Memphis sends those exact same seconds, or at least the research I did, that they sent him back for Isaiah Stewart. It's a little bit of pick laundering, who knows. And then they replace Tobias Harris with John Collins, which I do think is a better fit simply because John Collins is still a really good lob threat. And overall, I would say he's a better floor spacer than Tobias Harris. So I think, but, it's probably a wash. They replace them. They still need a guy. And Kevin Durant is still a dude. Earlier in his career, when he was 31, we had that scare after he tore his Achilles in the finals. Kyrie signs with the Nets. He does too. His first year, he played 0 games. He played 35, then 55, and then they traded him. He played 47 between the Nets and the Suns. But I suspect that they shut him down early, kind of like they did with Giannis, the Bucks did, just to not get him injured, and he was gone. But since then, he played 75, 62 games. I was going to say the 62 games of when the Suns shut him down early, right? And no, that still applies for the Nets, though. He played, like 8 games after the Suns trade? They wanted to keep him healthy. They did that trade for the next year. So he played 75, 62, and 78 this past year. In fact, he was number 2 in the league in whole minutes played, behind him in Thompson. Not to be confused with minutes per game, where the leader was Tyrese Maxey. And the Pistons had some dogfights in these playoffs. Like, they could have been bounced in round 1 by the 8th seeded Magic. And I get it, the Magic had some injuries earlier in the season. They weren't really a true number 8 seed. They're more like a 5th seed. But, had Franz Wagner, if I remember correctly, he missed those last 3 games. The Magic probably closed them out, right? And they would have possibly lost 4-1, or in 6 to the Magic. And then they end up losing to the Cavs, who we saw how close they are. They got completely swept by the Knicks. By the way, I don't know if you guys checked out Donovan Mitchell's wild contract. Holy shit, Batman. But as I mentioned, no, you don't want to lose Ausar. But maybe you could sell high on him. I mean, the dude averages barely double-digit points a game. You got Ron Holland, who was the 5th overall pick a couple years ago. And happy birthday to him. Today's his birthday. And he's barely turning 21. He's got a little bit more potential from deep, although he doesn't shoot it good from there. The free throw percentage and just the way the form looks on the shot will tell you that he's got a lot more potential. And maybe he makes a leap in year 3. He's still super young. He's definitely plays hard. There's a lot to like there. So maybe they have that replacement already in-house. You'd be looking at a possible lineup of Cade, Holland, Kevin Durant, John Collins, and Jalen Duran. I mean, that's legit. Especially in the Eastern Conference, that's legit. And because they'd only be giving up 1 pick, it's not like they're breaking the bank to get Kevin Durant. Right? You're getting rid of an all-defense guy, but you're getting so much more. Again, how serious are they about winning? But just to finish off, you would say, oh, hey, the Rockets would have to re-sign 2 guys. It's like, yeah, but they don't have any max contract. At that point, Şengün would be the one making the most money. I mean, Raphael Stone has done an amazing job of getting guys to take less. Şengün could have gotten 224 on his, end of rookie extension. For reference, that's what Cade Cunningham got, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes. Ironically, nobody ever bitches about Scotty Barnes is overpaid. But we hear all these Rockets fans Speaking about Amen Thompson, Amen Thompson averaged slightly more points, more rebounds per game, high field goal percentage. Scotty did have him beat in the 3-point shooting by like 9%, but he's still not a great 3-point shooter. And he's 2.5, or sorry, almost 2 years older, year and a half. I'll give me Amen all day, every day. So that one I always find weird. But again, if you had them together, maybe Raphael Stone convinces them to take less. And I'll give you an example about that afterwards. But yeah, he's gotten Jalen Green to take less, Şengün, who I just mentioned. He's gotten Kevin Durant to take less. Jabari Smith Jr.'s on a nice little player deal. Tari Eason, I guess, bro. He's on a good deal. Van Fleet the second time, that's why he's pouting and bitching and he wants more money. But Raphael Stone is kind of a gangster when it comes to the contract negotiations for the former lawyer. In fact, is he going to work his magic again? I call it more of a track record again. And we'll finish on this of why we've seen this before. We saw it back in 2014. The Rockets had traded Marcus Morris to the Suns, reunited him with Markieff. And what did they take? $8 million and $5 million deals. Yeah, this was in 2014 before the cap and all that exploded. But they took less money. They got that tattoo of family over everything or something like that. Dude, the dude's got matching tattoos. I kind of find that kind of crazy. But yeah, they're real close, just like the Thompson twins are. And I'm not saying, oh, you're not going to be broke making 30 plus million a year. Can you take slightly less to stay together and keep this core rocking? I think it could happen. And, real quick, Marcus was drafted by the Rockets 14th overall. Markieff was 13th overall. So just like the Thompson twins, they were back-to-back picks. One spot later after Marcus was Kawhi Leonard by the Pacers. They traded him for George Hill on draft night to the Spurs. Ironically, they would end up playing together in what was a horrible trade in retrospect. But Kawhi said he wasn't going to sign with the Clippers, and they were like, yes, my leash. Let's do everything you ask for. They finally wised up and traded his ass. Good for them. But they let him run that franchise and play 50 games a season and magically get healthy every contract extension eligible season, right? You traded SGA, Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-round picks, 2 swaps. For anybody that says Raphael Stone did bad in the Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks trade, it's like we gave up 1 pick and some second-rounders. And Jalen Green, who's essentially kind of on a negative contract. DB's my dude, don't get me wrong. But still, overall, I still think it's a good trade. But for the Pacers to pass up on Paul George, on Kawhi Leonard, that's one thing. But for the Rockets, who they started having this affinity for power forwards, man. Like they had drafted Patrick Patterson. You guys remember Patrick Patterson? They drafted him 14th overall the year before. In that same draft where they took Marcus Morris, they got DeMontis Montiunas, who the Timberwolves drafted him 20th, and then we traded our draft pick, which was the 23rd overall, to Marodic, and then somehow Minnesota traded Marodic for Norris Cole for cash, and then traded Norris Cole to Miami, right? And then they got Bojan Bogdanovic, the Bogdanovic brother that we had signed, and then they sold him to New Jersey, and they ended up with like the 43rd pick, who is a dude who probably ended up working at Wiener Schnitzel. Malcolm Lee, he averaged like 4 points a game in a couple seasons, if you guys don't remember him. I don't expect you to go. But the other Bogdanovic brother, he had a really good career for the Nets after playing. He got recalled, so to speak. He played overseas for 3 years. In that same draft, they took Chandler Parsons in the second round, 38th overall. The next year, this is what I mean. Sorry to be the history buff here. The next year, they drafted Royce O'Neal, 16th overall, and Terrence Jones, more power forwards. And they even took Jeremy Lamb at guard, 12th overall, who was part of the Harden deal. Contrary to what people think, Sam Presti does miss, and he was being cheap. He offered Harden 4 years, $55 billion. Houston gave him, I think the max at the time was like 5 years, $80+ million. So yeah, I've given examples of Sam Presti missing. He had that the year that they took Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams with the 12th pick. They traded 3 first-round picks to move up in front of with the Knicks picks, and they took Ousmane Dieng, who's now on the Bucks. And all the Thunder fans will tell you, oh no, they did that to secure the rights to Jalen Williams, who they love so much, in case the trade fell through. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe. And then another year, they took Dylan Jones in front of everybody's favorite player, AJ Mitchell. AJ Mitchell, who already has a lot of injury problems. Both trades with the Knicks, too. Mitchell was 37th pick, Dylan Jones 25th. But I'm getting off subject. In this scenario, I think this leaves us in a good place. We're essentially getting an expiring contract in Robinson, no guarantees. Van Fleet's going to expire the afterwards, and so does Levert. So we're having clean books. And again, cite the Morris twin examples. Maybe that's a little bit extreme, but I do think the Thompson twins would take slightly less to stay together. I really do believe that. And then that leaves us with the assets. Like, is a Trey Murphy trade in works? The Pelicans are rumored to want 3 first-round picks. Fred makes 25. Trey Murphy makes 27. We certainly have the ammo to go after him. If you guys want to see that video, let me know, or any other video for that matter. I'm here to please the people. You guys let me know. It could be a multiplayer trade. You never know. I'm pretty sure the Pelicans want to get off DeJounte Murray. I've seen Swaggy. He made a video about getting DeJounte Murray, but there's a misconception about like DeJounte Murray's still this really good defensive player, and it's like, I don't know, the eye test and the metrics wouldn't tell you that. Like, maybe in his San Antonio days he was, but he's had injuries and effort issues on those sides ever since then, and he's on a negative contract at this point with 2 years remaining. So maybe they could insist that we take him off their hands. But for the Rockets, though, that could be really good, and it could be a very another movable piece. Again, let me know if you guys want me to make that video. Until then, I'll leave you guys with this quote from my guy, Dylan Brooks. Sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. Guys, help me out. Help me out. I could do this with your guys' help. You guys want daily content? I'm not pulling any of this information out of my bunghole. I take my time. I make these slides. I'm giving you guys factual, hardcore data. Let me know, guys. And anyways, yeah, if you guys have any ideas, let me know in the comments section. Let me know. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This is your dude, Jet707. Peace, dude. I'll catch you guys next time, and thank you for tapping in.